I think this is a very appointed time in history because, you know, Doug, a lot of preachers, and Tom will probably say amen to this, have quoted Ephesians 6 with, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of spiritual wickedness in heavenly places, never giving a real thought to what that really means. And the importance of what Tom Horn has been writing about, has been preaching about, has been speaking about, and the things that we have paralleled each other's research and writings with are critical to this time and age, because if you look at all the biggest corporations in the world, what do they deal with? Information. What is the ultimate control mechanism right now that we're seeing played out in the headlines and in the censoring of Alex Jones, any conservative sites, me, others that are being, hammered incessantly? The thing is that knowledge is truly power, but there's a different type of knowledge. There's an arcane knowledge or an occult knowledge, a hidden knowledge, and then there's God's revelation. And so I think the subject matter, I know the subject matter that we're going to be dealing with, that transhumanism and the hybrid age, could not be any more important at this point in history. It just simply can't. And God is very explicit when he states that his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because it's not that he doesn't warn them over and over and over. They reject it. So, the thing that's important is that when you're talking about singularity, and I'm going to turn it right over to you, Tom, after I run through, just this real quick point. The singular purpose of singularity is to destroy humanity that the living God created in his image and likeness. That's the real singularity. That's the real numero uno focus. And until people grasp that, then they can't understand the words of Jesus when he said, if the days weren't shortened for the elect's sake, there'd be no flesh left alive. And you can put in a parenthetical insert, not adding to the Word of God or subtracting from it, but that which God has created has been under attack even prior to Noah's flood, after Noah's flood, and now we come to a deja vu of demonic feasting and articulating their hatred for mankind. So this thing is really important. So when we talk about singularity, we're talking about the end of mankind as you know it. We're talking about extinction at the hands of the singularists, or at the people that believe that basically mankind can achieve godhood apart from God. We're talking about a term I coined years ago, techno-serfdom, slavery. We're talking about Hugo de Garis, who will be, by the way, a speaker at Branson, what he called Gigawar and Gigadeath, World War III. Economic collapse, somebody once said, and I agree with him right now, you cannot understand the markets, you can only understand the manipulation. In other words, you can identify the manipulations, but the markets make no sense. Then you have the all-encompassing Big Brother AI. You've got the alienation and loss of humanity, and that's what we're going to hit tonight too, because of all things, our humanity, our love, the mercy God shows us, the mercy we show others, that's something that they cannot reproduce, the empathy. Environmental catastrophes, right. And then we've got the loss of our history, knowledge, and spatial resolution, which simply means how we fit in everything. And we've got the, if you will, the potential now to basically obliterate ourselves, fully cooperating with the technological jargon, not realizing the ramifications of that jargon. Well, what's critical at this point, and I would say this, life-threatening, is the fact that we're now in a world where we're seeing the, if you will, the old gods, the ancient gods, the fallen angels. By the way, and I want to make something clear. When I talk about, I separate fallen angels, different than giants, different than demons. But when Jesus said the gates of hell are going to open, and his church, his body of true believers, that the gates of hell wouldn't prevail, that's because of God's protection protection on his people, which is going to be very important in these days coming. But quite candidly, when Jesus said, "Be ye not deceived," there is so much stuff coming at us that the only thing we can pray, and I know, Tom, this is Tom's prayer and my prayer, is that it clicks, Like, again, I love it when I'm told I'm always wrong. I've been wrong for 20 years. Well, when I wrote Genetic Armageddon 20 years ago, today's technology, tomorrow's monsters, well, now we're dealing with monsters with future technology. And, again, when you see something in the future, it's hard to get people in the present to even acknowledge it, let alone deal with it. And so what the Branson is all about is bringing together specialists and guys who have written extensively. There's no, selectivity that why isn't this person there or why isn't that person there. It's because we really try and do this, Doug, and for the benefit of everybody around the world that will hear this broadcast, we focus in on what we believe is the critical mass and the critical issue. Now, I made a statement, Tom, I don't know if you heard it, about 2 weeks ago or maybe 3 weeks ago. I was up early in the morning. It seems like I'm always up early in the morning. I have just one clock. It's up, meaning, there is no nighttime, it seems, lately. But the point being is that I felt that I heard and I understood instantly. I felt the Lord said there is no separating the technological from the spiritual. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because if we look at the destruction of the former age, if we look at that which I call pre-Adamic, others call it early earth, but I call it pre-Adamic, and the technology that's been involved, and even how Enoch was showing all the mysteries of the universe and how it all worked, then we can understand why the secret societies, even Francis Bacon, the 1500s, could talk about advanced technology. So I think it's important that people understand that when they talk about AI, artificial intelligence, when they talk about self-awareness or sentience, when they talk about, robots making moral choices, what they don't understand, or forgive me, they understand it, especially the occultists understand it, but the average person doesn't understand that this is their extinction playing out before their eyes. And it's not just a matter of taking their jobs, it's a matter of taking their lives, their future, and their grandchildren's future. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I just clicked on the headlines to see what was out there, and the stories that popped up over at Google. One headline says, Pentagon looks to speed up third wave AI technologies. And, of course, the article, what it's dealing with is this new Cold War that we've entered into with Russia, but more importantly, China, and the intelligence agencies that have communicated both secretly, but some of this has also been made public knowledge, that Russia is ahead of us in some parts of AI technology, but China is way ahead of us, and that, in fact, they're so far ahead of us that if we don't spend a huge amount of money and effort and put a lot of brain power behind trying to catch up with where they are, literally within 1 year, within 12 months, they could knock the lights out here if they decide to, and we would have no defenses against it at all. And in that case, they're only talking about the grid, which our own government studies show could lead to something like 90% of the population in America dying as a result of the grid going down. But that's cyber warfare is only one part of AI technology. So that was one of the headlines. One of the other headlines, North Korean scientists attempting to clone humans. And that article, again, based off of American intelligence, that say that we know there are at least 2 advanced laboratories. And by the way, this only in North Korea. There are numerous other countries that are doing this too right now, but that are not only cloning, Snoopy the dog, but they're cloning humans. And some of these are not being destroyed at the embryonic level. I would suspect that's happening in the United States as well, according to some of the British research intelligence that we quoted last year on the same subject matter. One of the other headlines today, this is a real headline. The world needs bioengineered, ethical humans more than it needs geoengineering. That's a real article today. One of the other ones, I think, yesterday, U.S. government cannibalizing babies so that transgenic mice can live. That was a headline that was out there on a lot of websites. I also saw it on stevequayle.com. And then finally, another headline today, I don't know if you saw this or not, Steve, but the headline is Faith, Technology, and the Future, Aubrey de Grey to keynote Christian Transhumanist Conference in Nashville. And these guys are rushing to get their conference in Nashville ahead of your conference by about 2 weeks. That'll be taking place in Branson. Of course, Aubrey de Grey, the immortalist, who is one of the leading figures working towards immortality without God. But this is the Christian. And if anybody listening to the show tonight went to Google right now or Yahoo News or any of those and just typed in the term transhumanism or transhumanist, you would see all kinds of headlines coming from every direction, and many of these from peer-reviewed science journals, from legitimate news sources, not just CNN, illustrating that we have entered in to the hybrid age. That's the reason for your title on your conference of the transhumanism and the hybrid age. That's actually a term that's being used now by different scientists. For people that are listening to this program, let me add something, and then I want to go to a program that you did just here, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, Steve, where you were talking about AI and its effort to identify and exterminate patriots. I want to ask you about that and talk about that a little bit, because I think it was very germane and very timely. People listening to this show that may not know this, there was also a Journal of Religion and Science feature in Saigon, which is a peer-reviewed, very well-respected journal of science and religion. Lots of different Bible scholarly type guys, read that and quote from it. But it featured a piece that was written by the professor of religion and philosophy at the University of London a while back, a guy by the name of S. Jonathan O'Donnell. The name of the article was called Secularizing Demons, Fundamentalist Navigations in Religion and Secularity. And in that article, his whole goal was to explore, at what he called a deeper level than his peers, the anti-transhumanist apocalypticisms of our day, the central voices behind which he identified as Tom Horn, Steve Quayle, people like the Hagmans. In fact, I was on the 2 other radio shows earlier today doing 2 programs with Larry Spargimino at Southwest Radio Church, and I reminded him that he too and Noah Hutchings were also listed as part of what they called the milieu, just a French term meaning a community. But we have literally been selectively identified as the leaders of the transhuman resistance. And so, my new book, The Milieu, Welcome to the Resistance, that's what I was pulling off of, was to say that, basically a gauntlet was thrown down because they recognized, as well as we do, that we have indeed entered into a period of time in which we are now in a catastrophic war for the minds of a generation. And right now, frankly, the church is losing that war. I'm not talking about every church. I'm not talking about all Christians. But for the most part, the institutions of Christianity don't even know what we are talking about, and this is the biggest, most critical issue that is facing the world today.